Welcome, my name is John Lira, and the purpose of this demo is to show you the beginnings of logging in so that we can use the MDM Hub, Informatica's Master Data Management Multi-Domain Edition. Your login procedures may be a little bit different. You should have registered for a class, received login connection information. Assuming you have done all that, then you'll be presented with our remote labs to do our labs. And it'll be something like this. Here it's asking me for the administrator user. I'll log into the remote machine, which is a Windows machine. As administrator, my password is lowercase admin, A-D-M-I-N. Again, make sure you get the right instructions for your environment. Sometimes it is infoadmin00. So it all depends, but here I have logged in as admin. Now, it's logging into the Windows environment, which is our platform for our training courses. So there'll be some delay while we get everything running. Now, these first things we want to do as we prepare is to know that the product, the software has already been installed. A lot of tools that we need, such as the Oracle SQL Developer, our course training material, different items that we need for the class are already installed. However, make sure that you receive the student guide, which is the lectures, as well as possibly also the lab guide. Different courses, different formats, but there is a student guide and as well as a lab guide that you may receive or may not receive. It all depends how you have registered for the classes. So throughout my demos, I'm showing the demos labs, and I'm purposefully following the sequence of the course as well as the labs that you're going to be asked to do. So while I'm speaking, let's see, the first thing that I want to do is bring up the necessary services for the MDM Hub class. Every class may be different, and you see the stop menu. What I need to do is bring up the services. Although the product is fully installed, I need to bring up the class services start. I don't really have to stop them when I shut down the remote machine, but I can just bring up the start. Now this is going to bring up a couple things. It's going to make sure that the Oracle, which is our repository for our ORS, will be stored in, so we need Oracle. And secondly, after Oracle is started, we will bring up our hub environment, what's called the JBoss, one of our app servers, which is JBoss. In our case, listening to the lecture, you would have seen that we can also support others like Tomcat, etc. We are using JBoss. Refer to the release notes, product documentation for other app servers that we support. Now, this is going to take a while, so while that's going on, I'm going to show you what we have here. So if you see that it will take a long time. Notice it said starting. Now, if you go to the C drive, notice that the product is already installed, and let's see, let me make sure that beautiful green color there, starting, you see starting JBoss. But just keep a sort of casual eye. What I want to focus on is that you actually have the product already installed, and that's just going to be brief. So where is it? Here's computers, and notice that on the right hand side you'll see the various products installation. Informatica, since we're talking about MDM, there it is. So the product is installed. I won't go in through much details. Take the administrator admin class for MDM to learn how to install this, what's in there, but the product is installed. You'll also see a training directory where the course writer has put various informations that we need for our class, MDM training, and you'll see that we have different things in here, documents and setup. Now, it's important to understand that there's a directory called let's see the path. Notice the path here, MDM training, MDM 330, that's the number of our class for the hub. And notice setup lab change list. I'll come back to this. It's very important that you understand what a change list is and how to use it. So I'll come back to it momentarily. So just know where we find it. Let me minimize that because we'll need that. And the services are still starting. Now, how do you test the services? Well, you sort of wait until JBoss starts, which will take easily around 7 minutes. Let's see if it's up already. I'm going to bring up a browser, and if it's ready, I'll be able to log into the hub. Many ways to do this. You can have the URL. Our course writer has made it easy so that we merely look at the favorites and Under there, we see the MDM hub. And if JBoss is ready, we're going to get the sign on. And if not, we'll just wait. So notice, still not ready. So let me just exit out of it. While that's still starting, notice that you have the Oracle SQL Developer. I encourage you to know how to use this. Although our class is independent of your DBA knowledge or database SQL development knowledge, it's important that you do know some of this, because the MDM hub is built on top either DB2 or Oracle as of this date and time. So we could use Oracle or DB2 as our foundation metadata repository for our ORS. We're using Oracle, and notice that everything we do in the hub console, as I have shown you in other demos, is built on top of a table structure. So the more you know about this table structure, the more you'll know the insights of the hub. We don't really need to know that for a class like this, but in practice, I do think you're going to have to know where different objects are stored in the table structure. So Oracle is coming up, and while that's going on, let me talk about a couple more things. So Oracle, we're going to need the change list. We're going to need. Once Oracle comes up, I'll show you where we are storing our transactional data. I'm going to wait for Oracle to continue bringing up, and let's see if the hub is available now. And this will be my last try, and then I'll just wait if I have to until we actually see if it comes up. Connecting. And let's see if it comes up. I will do so. So we're waiting for the hub to come up. Well, the hub is finally up. Notice that the URL is on top, the name of the machine, infoserver.com, the port number, CMX, and there in the middle, I see the launch button for the MDM hub. So we're ready. We're actually ready. We need to log in. If you were to read your lab book, it'll show you the user account that you need to use to log in. And I'll just share it with you. The username will be the word training, and the password will be MDM, everything lowercase. So username, training, and password lowercase m, d, m. Hopefully I have not entered a mistake. And voila. Now the first thing you see is the ORSs that in this installation we have configured. So notice we have something called CMX ORS, instruct demo for instructor. So we have quite a bit of ORSs. Which one should you use? Well, let me show you that. What I have done, let me just, for the moment, just go to the TRN lab for a moment, because I need to connect to something. Now let me minimize this. And here is a diagram that I have written that shows you the ORSs. So please read this at your convenience, but primarily you and I as students are going to be using the TRN lab, which is a new and empty ORS. So that's the one that you and I will be using, a new and empty ORS, or the student where you and I will do our labs. When we do our workshop, we're going to go into another ORS to do our workshops. Now, these are empty. These are just created. In another demo, I showed you how to create an empty ORS. So these are empty ORSs, and staying with the philosophy of the MDM multi-domain, it is data model neutral. So we can create our model as we're going to do ourselves, or we can also import a model. So very important to know that these are empty. Now, the instructor has several of them that the instructor will use to demonstrate. Equivalent to your work is the instructor lab complete for each individual lab that we're going to do, and something called the instruct workshop complete for the workshop. You can use those to guide you. If you get stuck in a lab, especially in the workshop, feel free to connect to those repositories and take a look at how the instructor would have solved the problem. Now, there's no guarantees. Every person is different. Perhaps you found a better way, a more efficient way, or a more creative way. Perhaps you found an error in the logic of the instructor. Remember, every instructor is different, so there's different ways to solve a problem. So use it carefully as a guide. It is not the ultimate truth. So with that in mind, Those are the ORSs. One ORS that you should not use is the CMX ORS. You never want to do that. It is an empty ORS, and you can read the details yourselves. So it's an empty ORS created by the system. So we don't want to do that. And there's another one, even more important, that you don't want to use. Let me put 2 X's. Do not use for your work. This is the system ORS. Its full name is the CMX system, so we don't really want to use that. Okay, I'll give you a few seconds to absorb this. And here is the matrix. Now that we know what we're doing, when we go back to the hub, now you know why I needed to connect. And let me minimize this. Now you know why, maximize this. Now you know why I connected to that particular user and that ORS. Now that we know that we have various ORSs, we can switch users. Under training, you can reconnect as another user. Back at work, you'll probably have more than one user. Here, we're just using training. Who created these users and permissions and privileges? The MDM Hub Administrator, which is a separate class. So I'm going to stay connected to the training user account. And notice you have a choice of your ORSs. Based on that diagram I just showed you, you now know which one you're going to be working on. So we're going to work on the TRN lab. And as I said, it's empty. That's where you're going to begin your work. I encourage you to read the preamble to the lab exercises. Before you start touching the software, read what the requirements are. What is our data? What kind of data do we have? What are the business requirements? That would guide you. As you go through this, you're going to end up building various configurations of your ER diagram, and the labs will guide you. How do you start with based objects? I'm just clicking. So remember, we have to get a right lock if we want to modify, otherwise we're just in view. And the procedure will start going by itself in terms of the build process. Now, I'm going to show you a few more things. Let me quickly go through here. I have several diagrams, and these diagrams are also in your lab book. So, let me just quickly, let's just open this. Okay, here is the batch data process flow. This is in your lecture as well as your lab book. And I use this throughout all my demos, not all of them, but through most of them, just to keep us focused of where we are. So the batch data process tells me, what do I want to build? The landing objects, the based objects, which are the green dots, the staging, the truss, the load. And I have been using this to know where we are in the process flow. I think that's a handy tool. When I discuss the workshop environment, you'll see that I'm going to bring up, in addition to this, another diagram that shows us how to proceed. So very useful tools. Now that I'm in the hub, let me go back to the hub. Notice that I'll continue building this. And now let me quickly run to Oracle. I brought up Oracle, and notice that because we're using the TRN lab, please be careful if you're going to go to Oracle. Never modify tables or data. Always do so only through the hub. It's very easy to corrupt the metadata, and it'll be very hard to fix. But notice in your TRN lab, because you're going to start out with nothing, there is very little. Anything that you recognize as yours is not there. But there is already system default tables. For example, notice wherever you see customer LDG, those are the objects you're going to build. But notice there's something called CREPAR. These are system tables that every ORS needs to do its work. So be careful with those. You don't want to modify anything, and be careful even reading these tables. So in the administrators class, we go into more details, and let me just scroll down. You see the ZZ tables? This is your data. Incorrectly, the course writer, to make it easier for us, and I say incorrectly because the course writer knows that in real life, your transactional data, your source data, your target data will be not in the ORS that we're using. So he or she has put this in there to just make it easier for us. So the course writer has used the same schema and just put the source target tables. In fact, this is all our source. We have two source systems, a sales, and that's the ZZ invoice summary. And there's a CRM system consisting of the rest of the tables. So our source system data that we have is stored in the ZZ. And notice it is in the same ORS, which is a no-no. And this is why when we go back to the hub, if I ever want to validate my ORS, I'm going to Metadata Manager. Don't worry what I'm clicking on. You don't have to know how to do this just yet. Throughout the class, you'll learn this. Metadata Manager allows me to validate an ORS. And when you validate, this is why we're getting various warnings or informational messages saying that there's data in the ORAS that is not metadata, and that's what it's dealing with. Notice here, since I'm doing metadata manager, I am making sure that I have no fatal errors, because that means I have a corruption of some sort in my metadata. Warnings are okay, as well as information. It just leads me sometimes, it's telling me that something is not configured correctly. In a moment I'll see this, and notice we're going to get the warnings. Notice the database contains a table that is not present, and here is the ZZ. Yes, because we know we have tables that are not in the metadata, and that's why it's complaining. Actually, it's really good. It's telling me, don't do this. Have a separate schemas for your transactional, your master data that's coming in. Okay, and then you'll see, just to recognize some of the warnings, since I've already have gone ahead in my demos, I have not configured roles, permissions. That's in the administrator class. So we don't really care about the warnings just yet. I just wanted to tell you that you can see some of these. And at this moment, I believe I've discussed the environment already. So the tools are, don't forget, you got to log into the remote Microsoft Windows machine. You need to log in to the hub, but first you got to bring up the services. And we did that through the stop light menu. Remember the services, start class services. We waited a long time. I also went into Oracle. I showed you where some of the ORSs we're going to use, and that we happen to have source data, the ZZs. I showed you and talked about change lists, how important it is. And I think that's it. So that concludes this. Of course, any questions, email us or write us. And that concludes the introduction to the environment that we're going to use. Okay, so thank you.